right, listen up. This is the Music Scene Podcast. I am your host, Dave Cudrak. Today, we've got a very special guest. His name is Chris Voss. Many of you will know him as the lead singer and guitar player for the band The Record Company. They are currently on tour supporting their fourth album. The tour is called the Roll With It Tour. And he had some time between dates and was gracious enough to sit down with me and sit for this interview. So it was awesome. It was really, really great talking to Chris. He's a very down-to-earth guy, grew up on a farm, has an incredible work ethic. We talked all about how the record company has opened for John Mayer, Bob Seger, and there are so many nuggets of wisdom in this conversation, especially for aspiring songwriters and musicians who really want to make a career out of music, because he is certainly doing that. Talked all about his back surgery and what it was like performing on stage, having to sit for a few of those shows. He's a very dedicated musician, did not want to have to cancel any shows because of his back surgery. I think he gets that from his dad, which you will hear about in the very beginning of this episode. But yeah, all around great guy. Really enjoyed talking to Chris. And I hope you guys, if you guys get a chance, go out and see the record company on tour. I know as soon as they come back to Philly, I'm definitely going. So yeah, this was a great time. I hope you guys enjoy my conversation with Chris Voss.
So, how are you doing? Thanks for having me, friend.
Yeah, man, I'm good. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you're smack dab in the middle of the Roll With It tour, right?
Yeah. We've been playing an extended tour off of our fourth record.
Which is aptly titled The Fourth Album, right?
Yes, and just like the band name, it's meant to be to the point.
There you go. So where are you now? Are you in LA or Wisconsin?
I'm in LA.
Okay.
I live in Los Angeles right now, and then my second home is Wisconsin.
Nice. Yeah. So I've done a little bit of research on you, and I know you kind of grew up on the Voss farm, right?
I did.
Grandparents, I think, settled that farm in like 1847 or something like that.
1847, the year before Wisconsin became a state.
Oh wow.
They got the name Voss at Ellis Island.
Okay.
Tell, and they migrated from at least the German side of my family. I'm all half Italian too. My mother's 100% Italian, and
Okay.
and I mean she's Italian as they come. So, yeah, and then they settled in 1847. They've run that same area, that same farming area since that time. And now my brothers and my father run it. And then, around the area, there's a couple of relatives that are cousins that run the farms that grew away from the old.
Okay.
Man. So
yeah, what kind of farm is it? Is it agriculture or is it like animals or
it's
what do you got going on there?
A small dairy farm.
Oh, okay.
And they've been doing that since the beginning, dairy. And then my grandpa was part of all of that. They've been on the, they've been on the cutting edge for a long time of just how to, treat things the right way. Do it in a way where it's the most humane way you can do it.
Sure.
So that's really important to my dad, and it's good for the overall vibe of the farm, so
That's great.
I'm really proud of that,
Yeah, that's awesome. And your dad's still out there doing it, right? Even though he had some new parts put in, as I saw from a previous interview.
Yeah. I didn't ask his permission, but I put it out there. Yeah, he got some new knees and some got some old carpal tunnel fixed. He's in his 70s, and I called him. He had his second carpal tunnel surgery the other day, a couple of weeks ago, and my mom was like, I had called. I said, "How's Dad doing?" And she goes, "He's out working." I said, "Of
So
course
he must be okay then.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
about you? You just had surgery on your back, right? Herniated disc.
Yeah, man. And I'm proud to say that we didn't miss a single show. I played 4 shows with the herniation. You never want to have a spine doctor tell you when you go and finally get your MRI, have someone go, wow, this is massive. I'll spare you the details, but it was pretty grim. And I had been we played these shows in early March,
Hmm.
and like I say, I come from this family. You don't miss work, you just don't.
Right.
So I just
Yep.
put a back brace on and sat for the shows in early March. And then when I got home, I was in pretty rough shape. Basically, my guitar tech after the last show had to carry me like this to the
Oh,
van,
jeez.
and then I flew home and promptly laid on my couch. Um, for it took another 18 days for me to get the MRIs and everything together that needed to happen.
Hmm.
And then I don't know about the 23rd of March, making this fast because it relates to the shows. The doctor says, "Hey, this is massive. You need surgery, no doubt about it." And I said, "Well, we have shows on April 10th. This is March 23rd." And he says, and I said, "And I'm not canceling them." And he goes, "Well, if that's the case, I need to get you in surgery in the next 48 hours." And he
Oh,
like
wow.
we basically we're trying to find a way. And then the next day I ended up in the ER, and that facilitated me going to surgery.
Oh,
Did
really?
a great
Wow.
job, and
Yep.
I went from in 12 days I went from walking around with a walker to being back on stage, and I'm happy to say the shows went
That's great.
fantastic. The crowds were awesome. I learned a lot because losing that ability to move around made it all go in and like come
Yeah.
out in a different way. I had a lot more. It was all about here and here and
Oh,
here.
okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Instead of
yeah.
so everything was. And I was wiggling on a chair. There were a couple of close calls because I wouldn't even let my guitar tech Mike put straps on the guitars. I said, "Don't put them on there."
Oh, okay.
I'm like, "I will stand up." I, no brain.
Yeah.
So
Right, right.
so we made it. We made it through all of it. I'm very proud of it. I'm proud that we made it through. I'm really proud that I'm grateful for our crew, our managers who
Mm,
really helped facilitate, and everybody who came out and believed that the shows were going to be good. And you know, and they were. They were some of my
that's
favorite shows I've ever played.
that's
So
great. That's great. So I guess it's good to know that, like, if you're getting up there in age or whatever, and you're like, in your 70s or 80s, and you still want to play but
yeah,
have to sit down, you can, right?
yeah, man. It was like, my one of my heroes is Muddy Waters, and he did more from sitting on a chair than most people could do in any other way. But it was
Sure.
funny when I had to sit on the chair. I went and I watched. I'm a very big student of the game, so I was like, okay, Elton John in the '70s could move an entire stadium from a chair. I'm like,
Yep.
Howlin' Wolf played on a chair, Jerry Lee Lewis, and
Hmm.
Little Richard, and I'm like, what can I do? And it's like, I remember seeing Neil Young do his acoustic thing when I was like 18, and it was one of the most powerful performances I ever saw. So I just thought about all that, watched all that, and that helped me understand like how I could maybe attack this in a way where it still had energy. There was
Yeah.
still energy there.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that. I appreciate the fact that you did your research,
Oh,
to like prepare for it and all that stuff. That's great. I love it.
I think it's important as a musician to know your history of music. I used to teach music for a little while.
Oh, did
Um,
you?
I was a guitar teacher, not like a in school music
Hmm.
teacher, but I would always tell my students, the ones that were really hungry to learn, the ones that were really there to learn. And the beauty of guitar is kids usually, it's not like something kids are told to do,
Right.
like a violin or something. And then you get luck as a violin teacher, you get like a couple of students who really excel. In guitar, you get some students that excel, but they all want to do it. You
Right.
know,
Exactly.
they
Yep.
came to it because they saw something, thought it was cool. And I used to
Yep.
tell those kids, like, if they came in and they listened to Green Day, if they were really into it, I'd be like, that's like the era. It was like of that era when
Sure.
I was teaching. And I'd be like, have you listened to the Ramones? Have you listened to, the Stooges? And then if they
Right.
liked that, we would go further back. I'm like, well, have you listened to Chuck Berry? Have you
Hmm.
listened to Buddy Holly and the Kinks?
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
um, and we would dive backwards. And that roots a mind and a heart to the depth and the authenticity of where this all came from. And I think it's really important as listeners to get educated on where our favorite music came from, because it just makes you a learned listener. It gives you a great depth and fastens your heart to like where it all came from, because it does come from somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I remember, I think I was like 14 and I was reading in a physical magazine an interview with Angus Young from AC/DC, because I'm a gigantic AC/DC fan.
You're JC.
Yeah. And Angus cited Muddy Waters as one of his main influences. So I'm like, I've heard the name, but I didn't really, know. So I just started buying Muddy Waters albums, and it was great, And then same thing the years later. I'm also a big John Mayer fan. He talked about Stevie Ray Vaughan, who led to Albert King and John Lee Hooker and all that stuff.
Yes. Happy to say we did a tour with John, and that was amazing.
I know.
Okay. I'm taking your questions away.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I'm my father's son in the fact that you only have to ask like one question, and then the conversation
That's all
tends
right.
to go.
Make my job easier. That's great. So tell me a little bit about that experience with John Mayer, though. I'm a gigantic fan of his.
Oh, that was a crazy out of left field thing that happened. I'll give you the brief way it happened. We went and saw Dead and Company play at Fenway. We had played that day in Boston Commons, like the center of Boston, and there was a festival going on there. And we left the festival and went. The guy who was booking us at the time, Scott, he was really generous and got us into the show.
Nice.
And then he introduced me to John
Hmm.
later, and I had kind of hoped that was going to happen, and we met the whole band afterwards. And there's a whole story to that, but I don't
Sure.
want to go into a huge. But so I met John, and I walked up to him, and I'm like, okay, John Mayer, I've got to have something to say beyond, hey,
Right.
nice guitar playing. I mean, so I had done a little research. So to musicians, if anybody's a musician, if you have an opportunity coming, there's nothing wrong with doing a little research. So I knew that he had a PRS that was he had just gotten this PRS.
Yep.
I hadn't read about it, but I just made an educated guess from my listening. I knew it was a new guitar. I said, I noticed you're playing a new PRS. That was the first thing I said to him.
Nice.
He goes, oh, well, yes, I am. I said, does that thing got coil taps, which is this little push-pull thing? Yeah. That can change your pickup from a humbucking pickup, like an Angus Young pickup, to like a Stevie Ray Vaughan style pickup, right?
Yeah.
And I said, wow, that really was probably the most convincing. And that got his attention. He said, well, and he started talking about it, and that just got him talking. And
Nice.
By the end of it, he gave me his pick from Fenway.
Nice.
And he said, I'll listen to your band. And I said, great. And 2 weeks later, he says, I do what I say. I said, okay.
Yep.
2 weeks later, I got a call. John wants you to take you on his tour. And we're talking Madison Square Garden,
right.
And actual Madison Square Garden. And we had just, a year earlier recorded. Now, we were road dogs before the record company. The record company is kind of a fast rising success story once we got noticed.
Okay.
We were like 4 years of grinding away. But before that, we formed this band in our early 30s. We had done like, we all went to college and then left and went on to do music. All of us abandoned our degrees and went into that. And so it had been a long road. And then, so when we finally got the opportunity, it went kind of quick. So we went from recording in our living room a year later. I'm releasing our first record nationally after 4 years. But when the record came out in 2016 happens. By the end of 2017, I'm in Madison Square Garden with John Mayer. So I went from playing in front of nobody in like cities like Green Bay and Appleton, where I'm basically ruining people's Friday nights with 3 sets of original music because I was too stubborn to like covers. And if I played a cover, it was like a cover that they're like, who the hell is that? You know, it's
Yeah,
like,
right, right.
it's like if we played a Hendrix cover, it was going to be like a deep cut,
Yeah, right. Yep.
just to make sure nobody liked us. And so yeah, it was a wild ride, man. That
Yeah, that's awesome.
and he was awesome. First night he came walking right into the dressing room.
Yep.
Hey, welcome. And he
That's
said, I
great. I
told
love
you
it.
I'd listen to your band. And I said,
Yeah, man.
John, I said, I have the pick. It's in a place of it's reverence in the
Yeah,
house,
right. Yep.
so it it was pretty cool, man. Every
That's
once in a while you get
fantastic.
cool stuff.
Yeah,
He was a great
I
guy.
bet. Yeah, that's awesome. I love stories like that, where because sometimes you hear those stories where you meet your idol or somebody like that, and then they're
I've
like an
lived them.
asshole.
I've lived them.
Yeah. So
I'll tell you the ones that aren't assholes. I'm never going to
okay,
mention the ones that are.
sure, sure.
Bob Seger treated us like we were his sons when we
That's
opened
great.
for
Yeah,
him.
you went on tour with him too, right?
Yep. Beck, we met
Hmm.
him. He was so sweet.
Yep.
They're just Warren Haynes, no surprise there. My
Sure.
good buddy Marcus King, we took him out on the road. We were one of the first bands to take him out. No
Yeah,
matter
he's blowing up now for
yeah,
sure.
he's
Yep.
gotten so successful. And the other day I went up and saw him in Napa, and he's like, "Hey, come up and sit in."
I saw that on your Instagram. That was awesome.
Yeah, and he had some.
Mhm.
He acknowledged that we took him out, and like, that's like kind of living my dream. It's like I don't need to be that guy to appreciate being around that. It's like
Mhm.
Muddy Waters is one of my heroes, and I'm not comparing myself to Muddy Waters, but I'm saying that my heroes were not necessarily always Steve Cropper.
Right, right.
They weren't always the ones that got at the front of the biggest name, but
I hear you.
they made an impact, and that's
Yep.
all you can hope for.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. One of the things that keeps coming up in my conversations with folks like you who are out there doing it on like a pretty large scale, and then also just even the independent guys that are, still playing like you said, those sets in the corner of the bar. A
Which
lot
I
of
respect to the highest level. Anytime you
absolutely.
roll your guitar out the front door, your drum
Hmm.
set, your bass rig, your keyboards, whatever it is, I don't care if you take that and you put yourself in front of people. I don't care if you're playing original music, absolutely respect that. But even if you're just like you're choosing to spend your time placing music in front of people in this
Hmm.
busy world, I think that's an honorable thing to do, no matter what level you do it
Yep.
at.
Yep. Agreed. Agreed. One concept that keeps coming up though is kind of like I think success of any kind in this industry relies on not being a jerk. you know?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I have a theory on that if you want to know what it
Let's
is.
hear it. I'm all for it.
Um, it's funny you say that. I've never heard anyone say that in an interview, and it's
Okay.
something we talk about um, behind the scenes. And
Hmm.
one thing that been in a lot of conversations about that, it's like the old school you'll never work in this town again kind of people
Hmm.
that used to be in this business. You read, if you do your music history reading, there was a lot of swindling and a lot of
Sure.
cheating and a lot of bad stuff
Hmm.
that happened to artists and artists did to each other and all this stuff. And I just think these days, and I can't speak to the giant success stories like
Right.
those. I don't know if maybe at the upper echelons, there's still some of that going on, but I'm not in the upper echelons. I'm in the blue collar, working for everything you got
Hmm.
echelons,
Yep.
and um, I just think whether you're an agent, a manager, a promoter, a band member, a crew member, a local crew person, that if you're playing in, music that has sticks and strings, or even if it's electronic music and you're in clubs that are between 100 people and 1,500, 2,000 people, nobody's getting rich.
Hmm.
You're doing it because you got to, because you love it,
Right.
because you
Yep.
need to,
Yep.
and so yeah, there's no room for jerks. Now, that being said, I mean, you still make decisions in your career. There have been you work with people, then you're not working with people. People work with you, then they're not working with you. And
Mm.
sometimes, I've seen feelings get hurt. I've had my feelings get hurt, but you got to get over it. It's
Right.
everybody's got their life to live.
Yep.
Sometimes you're going in the same direction and you split off,
Hmm.
and in my life, anybody that's going to be around me and do stuff with me, you're dealing with a guy who was raised on a farm. So I'm going to work, 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 work.
Hmm.
That's all I know. That's all I love. And I'm a little bit nuts. Like, you may not want to always follow me into the breach, you know, um, and I've lost some partners that way, band
Hmm.
members back before the record company. I
Yep.
was just lucky I met two guys that were crazy enough to equal my insanity and work ethic. And
That's
and
great.
they were both so talented. They helped raise my abilities. They
Yeah,
challenged me at
that's
and
great.
I hope I do the same.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Yeah, so I mean, as far as the other band members, we've got Alex Stiff on bass, and then Mark Cazorla. Is that how you say?
Kazorla, yes.
Cazorla? Yeah, on drums. And then you obviously are the lead singer, guitar player, but you also do harmonica, pedal steel, lap steel, stuff like that, right?
Yes, I do. And everybody in the band can play. There's a section in the show, multiple instruments.
Hmm.
Alex, Mark is the most proficient drummer, but Alex comes up with great beats. Alex produced our record. Mark is a great video editor. Mark can play the piano like forget about it. He's so good at
Nice.
the piano.
Hmm.
As a matter of fact, when I met Alex and Mark, I thought I'd never heard either of them play bass or drums. I knew them as Alex, a guitar player, and
Oh
Mark is
wow,
a pianist. And it
interesting.
was only when we started talking about playing together that I was like, well, who are we going to get to play bass? And Alex is like, I'm kind of getting tired of playing guitar. I'll play bass. And then Mark was like, yeah, and I play drums. That's my first instrument. And I was like, oh, sounds like a good idea. And then who
Yeah,
knew
right.
that the prescription for my career, the answer was a guitar player and a piano player playing bass and drums. And
How
those
did
guys
that
just don't.
first
Yeah.
how did that first rehearsal go then? Like when Alex was on bass and Mark was on drums? Was it
Well,
like,
funny
you know?
enough, there's documentation out on the internet that you can hear this. Right on
Oh, nice.
Spotify, a couple of years ago, we released a song that's appropriately titled Born Unnamed.
Okay.
And Born Unnamed was a song I had written specifically to try and hook these guys into my idea of us playing together because they had played in bands together since college. And I just don't think when you beat your head against a wall with another guy, it's like being on a losing baseball team for too long. You're two
Right.
really good players, but you keep losing,
Hmm.
and you're at some point you're just like, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of this whole deal. So it took a second for them to want to jam. Not
Hmm.
not because they didn't want to jam with each other, but they knew I was coming with the energy of like, let's be a band. And they're like, this guy's
They're like,
nuts.
yeah, they're like, oh, this guy wants to work.
Yeah, they're like, this guy's nuts. We kind of don't want to do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I came in and I plugged my microphone into an amp, so it had that like wacky sound.
Yep.
And Alex heard it, and I just was like, "Are we going to record today?" And Alex at first he was like, "Yeah, I don't know. Maybe let's just hear what it sounds like." We played for like 15 minutes, and Alex was like,
Yep.
"Wait,"
And
and he
this is
went, "Hit
day
record."
one.
Day
This is
one.
day one of you guys
So
playing together.
Born Unnamed is probably 35 minutes in
Hmm.
to us being a band. And we didn't even know we
Wow.
were a band. We didn't have a band named. I'm reading those lyrics off of a sheet, and we played it without any rehearsal. That was, I
That's
think,
amazing.
actually the first take of it as well.
That's
So,
I'm gonna have to check that out. Apologies for not knowing that exists,
oh
but I'm
no,
definitely gonna have to check it out.
I mean, we've got like 50 some songs up online
Hmm.
now. So it's like even the people who really listen to us, like, I'm always shocked when I see that it's like, wow, that song had 5,000 people listen to it last month. Whoa, like, who are these people? Can I buy
Yeah,
you a
right.
sandwich? But it's great, man. No, I'm glad that song got out there. It was really exciting to put. Our early material was strong enough that once we got done with our third record, we put out a early songs and rarities record for Record Store Day because we had this pile of material from that first 2 years and we still haven't released it all.
Oh, wow.
There's
Okay.
still more there. We
Yep.
just, there's a 10-year anniversary for Give It Back to You, our first national release coming up next year. And I'm kind of premiering the idea of this now. Nobody knows. That our old label, that we have some really good friends that believe in us over there, and they were like, "Hey, you want to do a 10-year anniversary?" We're like, "Yeah." So we're gonna re-release that with like some new tracks, put some
Nice.
stuff that nobody's heard before or has never been available on vinyl,
Yep.
and we're gonna celebrate that album. That basically is the reason we're here.
That sounds great. That sounds great. You heard it here, folks.
You've also heard my man here, David, only have to ask 3 questions while I just have gone off.
That's all right. I'm here for it. I'm here for it all. That's great. So tell me a little bit about kind of the beginning of your journey before the record company. Where did it all kind of start? I think I read somewhere that you kind of did the usual like open mic stuff in Wisconsin and all that, right?
Yeah, I moved. I had a band in high. I was crazy since I was born, and I say that with affection. I'm a dreamer, and it
Okay.
doesn't necessarily mean that things have to make sense. When I fell in love, the first girl I fell in love with, I thought she was going to be the one I married. The first band I formed in high school, I thought that was the band
Right.
that was
Sure.
going to get me there, and I acted like it. I'm like, guys, I mean, these poor guys. I remember when they left the band, I was like, how can they do this? It's like that old Bryan Adams song, Summer of '69, where he's like,
Yeah.
no,
Yep.
never. That song always rings a bell in my heart because I'm like,
Yep.
I had the girl that I thought I was going to marry, and I was crazy. I was 16. What did I know?
Yeah. Yep.
And all those, my belief kept all those people around into my 20s, and then they just bailed on me, all of them at once.
well, it's their loss. I'm sure they're very nice people,
So
but
then
it's their
I
loss.
formed a band in college, and we became pretty popular in Milwaukee. I went to Milwaukee for college.
Yep.
And I always played original music from the first moment I had a guitar. I remember the first day, I didn't even know how to put your fingers on the strings. There was no YouTube. There were no teachers. I just was hitting the strings.
Yep.
And like, I didn't even know you were supposed to put how to put my fingers on. I'm just like playing 2 notes and going da 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 ding 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 don 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 ding ding ding, thinking that I'm writing a song.
Right.
Because that's what I
start
wanted
somewhere.
to do. Yeah.
Yep.
So I wrote. I've written since the moment I started, and that's been my primary motivating factor. And I've written for every one decent song, I've written 90 not so decent.
I've heard that. I've heard that from various songwriters. The same thing. It's like,
Yeah.
a lot of it's a lot more work than people think, the non-musician people. I think, it's a lot more work.
Well, it's like if you hear good dialogue in a movie, like, or, you watch a Scorsese movie or a Tarantino movie or something, you watch Pulp Fiction or Reservoir Dogs. I don't know why I'm just thinking of Tarantino now, but
they're all good movies though.
Yeah, but it's like you watch the dialogue in that and you'd think, oh, this is so natural. It's like that guy destroyed himself writing that dialogue. Like, to make something seem that effortless, Now, you do occasionally get songs that just, happen. Like Off the Ground, those lyrics got written so fast, which is probably our most popular song. Alex had the bass line, and then he had an idea on the chorus, and with the Off the Ground, he wrote that line. And then the woo part, it's a debate. I don't know if Mark wrote that, I wrote that, or Alex wrote it. And then the verses, I just went home that night and I just was like, you got to get myself out the side of the road. Things are looking clearer than I ever been. And I just,
that's awesome.
I think the only line that was there was, I've got to get myself up off the side of the road.
Okay.
And get myself up off the ground.
Yep.
And I just sat down and I knew the story. I'm like, I know this guy. This is me.
That's awesome. I love that. It's great when it just kind of comes together like that. It feels so good. That's happened to me maybe once or twice in my writing, experiences.
You can't force it. But there are 2 things I'll say that as the beginning of this interview would show, I love the history. So
Hmm.
anytime when I was a kid, especially if an interview came out, I was subscribed to Guitar Player Magazine and Rolling
Hmm.
Stone and anything I could get my hands on, because we didn't have the internet. We had
Yep.
MTV, but I didn't get that till sixth grade. And, I was out in the middle of nowhere on a farm, and I don't mean the middle of nowhere in a bad way. I mean, it was beautiful. I loved it. But,
Right. Yep.
I had four kids in my grade school class. I mean, I really
Really?
grew up in a time warp. Yeah.
You only
It
had
was
four? Really?
four
Man,
kids,
I thought I lived in a small town. I had like 20, but
four
man.
boys, four boys. Me, Tommy Warren, Michael Pepping, and Joseph Rieselman. Those were the four.
Shout out to the classmates, man.
Yeah,
That's
those guys,
awesome.
if any of them hear this, they'll love it. But I know all those guys still, by the way. They
Oh,
still
really?
come to,
Nice.
they come to the shows. But I digress. I don't even remember where I was. Help me, man.
Writing a song in like
Oh,
5 seconds compared to the one that takes a while.
So, Neil Young. Neil Young says songs come out of nowhere. He's like, it's
Hmm.
a little voice. I'm paraphrasing. It's a little voice, a quiet voice. You have to learn to recognize that. He's like, I will be at the dinner table, and my wife knows. My children know. If I just stand up and leave the table, I have to. He's like, because they come and they're fragile and they fall apart easy. You have to shine a light on them and water them and
Yeah.
make them grow, take root. And then
Yep.
you can walk back and finish your dinner. So that's your Neil Young thing. And then Bruce Springsteen, I'll go for Seeger. Springsteen says, root out the cliches. That always stuck in my head. He's like, Born to Run was not just Born to Run. He said he filled an entire notebook of lyrics
Hmm.
for that song. Now
Okay.
so you think, oh, this guy's just a genius, brilliant. He's a genius because he recognizes how to take and be patient with his ability and
Hmm.
let it come to pass until
Yep.
his switch is all the way on, you know?
Okay.
And then Bob Seger is the one that said, you're going to write a billion. And he said it to, oh, shoot, I'm forgetting his name. The singer from the Eagles, not
Glenn Fry
Glenn
or
Fry. Thank you.
Glenn Fry.
Yes.
Yep. Yep.
He said to Glenn Fry, which is in this great, I was never a big Eagles fan, but I watched the documentary on him and I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
so blown away by them. But he told Glenn Fry, you're going to write 100 bad songs for every good one.
Hmm. Yep.
But if you write, against the wind, when your others were 100 bad ones, you're going to be all right. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
exactly. Yeah. Or Hotel California.
Yeah, yeah. So the rest of us, I think, would be smart. And Springsteen said your heroes will leave you a roadmap on how to do it if you care enough to take it out and read the map.
Oh, that's interesting. I've never heard that before. That's great.
Yes. And that's a big one. I think that's it's really exciting what like your feeds can bring you now,
Hmm.
as they know what you like. It's like, oh my God, here's an
Yep.
Otis Rush thing I've never heard, or all this stuff. But man, there's still something about just burrowing in yourself and
Hmm.
finding things and letting yourself go down some rabbit holes. And for
Yep.
crying out loud, last night I was watching a documentary on Judy Garland live at Carnegie Hall because I finally listened to that entire performance on the plane, which is 26 songs. And I walked away from it. And I'm talking about Judy Garland. Why would a guy like me, you know, and I walked away from it and I'm like, this might be the greatest vocal performance live I've ever heard.
That's
And I'm
amazing. I
like,
love that.
yeah,
I
so
love it. I love it. No, I appreciate like the fact that you were open-minded enough to explore it. You know what I mean? It's great. I don't think you should pigeonhole yourself into like certain styles. Like, sure, we have preferences, right? Like, I went through a long period of time where I was into thrash metal,
me
Metallica,
too.
Anthrax, Megadeth, all that stuff. You know?
First riff was Seek and Destroy. That was my
There you
very
go.
first
I
riff.
play that in every Guitar Center I'm ever in. That's the first thing I play when I pick up an electric guitar.
I drop that song occasionally in the song we do in A. I quote that song, and the reason I do it in this little breakdown, it's always for me an acknowledgement in my own head of where I started and
Nice, nice.
and just kind of taping it all together. But
I love it.
one thing about that Judy Garland thing, this is kind of an interesting, kind of hilarious. This is how my brain works. So I
Hmm.
live just down the road from Hollywood Forever Cemetery, and she's buried there.
Oh,
And
wow.
when I was on the plane, I got home, and I yesterday I woke up and I have to walk for my, recovery of my
Mhm.
back.
Okay.
And I walked over there yesterday, and I
Nice.
stood in her pavilion, took my hat off,
Hmm.
and I said, "Mrs. Garland, my name's Christopher Voss. I'm a performer. I listened to your Live at Carnegie Hall record yesterday, and it's the greatest thing I may have ever heard. And I just wanted to say that." Now, that's the way I work, though.
It's
You know,
fantastic. I love
can
it.
I say? So, and it felt good. And then last
Yeah.
night, I find myself now, I'm watching Judy Garland on Jack Parr in 1959.
Hmm.
Judy Garland, and it's like, why? Well, when I listen to Judy Garland, I hear, well, she might have influenced Patsy Cline. She might have influenced Sarah Vaughan. She might have,
Hmm.
because you hear this thing in her voice, and you figure, well, these movies came out, they were pop culture in the 30s and 40s.
Hmm.
Well, these little girls, Patsy Cline and all these people would have been listening to her. The whole world was listening to
Yeah.
her.
Absolutely. Yep.
And all these musicians were influenced by her. So all of a sudden I'm drawn to it. It's like, well, a lot of musicians I respect probably grew up loving her. So it makes sense that I would finally get it.
Hmm. Yep. It
So I'm
does. It
not,
does make sense. Yep.
yeah, I'm not fronting on it anymore.
Hmm.
When you're 18, your identity, your musical identity is so important, right? Like
Hmm.
if I
Absolutely.
listened to Nirvana when I was 14, that was
Hmm.
everything. Like
Yeah.
I waved that flag, and maybe then you're not ready to be, because it's your identity, and that's a
Right.
good, healthy thing.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
at
You're
some
you're
point,
afraid to explore. You know.
and you haven't found the brevity, at least in my experience, for me, speaking for me,
Hmm.
I hadn't found the
Yep.
brevity yet to know who I was, and I shouldn't have at that. You're finding out, to believe that I could be open to anything.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. So
That's great.
I
I
don't
love
think
it.
you've asked me one question. I this is the wacky. Is this an interview or
Well,
like?
I like that my most of my interviews, and this is going kind of typical for my podcast, which is great. I'm not very much a question and answer type guy. I like to just have conversations. I want to pretend in my little head that me and you are just sitting at a restaurant or something, just talking about music across the table. And this is exactly how it would go anyway. So that's awesome. I appreciate you for that. Thank you.
Oh, well, thanks.
I
I,
do know that you have an affinity for, let's see if I get the order right, old guitars, old tractors, and old cars. Is that right?
yeah, in that order. Old tractors before old cars.
Yeah, man.
I love, and I'm a sentimental fool. I love my family. I've been with
Mhm.
the same woman since I was 23.
Right. Valerie, right? Your wife's name is
Valerie.
Valerie? Yep.
Yeah. I've always said, and I don't care if it sounds syrupy or old fashioned, I believe it. I was like, I made a lot of messed up choices and dead end roads, but I had one decision I made young, and I put a lot of belief into that. And she showed me a lot of belief. If you're a musician, no matter who your partner is going to be, no matter what their background is, just make sure that you find someone. If you want to do this, find someone that elevates you,
Right.
lifts you up.
Absolutely. Hmm.
I remember so many nights being like, why are you even believing in me right now? At 27, I think at 27, I said to her, I can go back to school right now and get a real career. And she's like, if you do that, you're not you.
Right. That's a good point. She got you.
Yeah. And I'm sure there were many nights she's like, why am I encouraging this guy? He's not making a dime, you know?
She saw
But
something in you, man. She saw it.
yeah. Yeah. And now she's out here and she's doing well. I mean, she's working over at Warner Brothers Studios, and that was her
Oh,
dream.
nice.
And
Nice.
I'm
What
working.
what is her dream, by the way? What is she looking to do?
She's doing it. She
Yeah.
did
What
it.
is it?
Yeah, when
Yeah.
I met her, she was waitressing at a little like Italian pizza parlor,
Hmm.
and I was hosting an open mic at Linneman's River West. Well, I don't remember if I was hosting it at this time. I think I was. Linneman's River West Inn. Jim Linneman and Marty. They put on live music 7 days a week in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and have been doing it for 30 years.
Wow.
Never missed a
7 days a
night.
week. Wow.
7 days a week.
That's
All
amazing.
original too.
Really? That's amazing.
Yes. They have an open mic that's where I got my start.
Hmm.
Then I eventually, started hosting it, you know.
Nice.
And then, but yeah, you got to have a partner that elevates you, musicians. If somebody starts being like, "Is this something you're gonna do for real?" And
Hmm.
I don't care if what your arrangement is. I don't care
Yeah.
what your background is, what kind of partner you need. Just make sure that whatever that partner is, that you shine on them and they grow, and they shine on you and you
Hmm.
grow. If you feel like it's not for any extended period of time, we all go through rough patches.
Sure.
You have to ask yourself, is music something I do, or is music me?
Yeah.
And if music is who you are,
Hmm.
you have to satisfy that, or you're gonna. Everybody I know that's walked away from it always has to come back.
Well,
They
that's
can't.
it's amazing you say that, because I can't tell you how many musicians I've interviewed on this podcast, and I'm up to like, I don't know, episode 50 or something like that. Um, I want to say 90% of them, including myself, have hiatuses in their musical journey, right? They put their
Sure.
instrument down for whatever reason, and then, but
Yeah.
it always calls you back at some point, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, it always calls you back.
You want to talk about something that I've never talked about on any podcast, but I don't think any conversations led me down this road. But it's hard when you start to hate the thing you love because it's
Yeah.
hurt so many times.
Oh, I hear you. Yeah. Yep. Yep. You
Yeah, I
failure
mean,
after
like,
failure after failure, right?
you feel, some people are like, they have that deep burning passion, but they're like, you know what, this is, I need my weekend, and and this is my boys and my girls and my thing, and that's enough. And then some are over. Where I was at was it, and it helped me get through a lot of tough times, but it also made things a lot tougher than they needed to be. I know that
Yeah.
now.
Sure.
Um, I can't go back and change anything. I can only know that now. But
Hmm.
I actually, when you start to hate the thing you love the most, because you're like, I can't even listen to music right now because it's just so discouraging. Everything is, I can't write a decent song. I haven't, I want to do this for a living. Who am I kidding? What have I done? What am I doing? I'm
Right.
in here practicing and practicing. All of my 20s, I'm not, this isn't a sad story. I'm just saying these are the things you think, or I thought
Sure.
when I was doing it. It's like,
Yep.
you're alive, you're doing well, you're healthy. There's nothing to complain about. But in your
Hmm.
little artist head, in my little artist head, it's like, my friends are going and they're getting married and buying houses,
Oh,
and
yeah. Yep.
or they have careers and everybody's patting them on the back, and I've gone past the age of patting on the back to like, you're gonna get over this, Chris.
When are you gonna grow up, Chris? When are you gonna grow up and get a real job?
I've never grown up, I'm proud to say.
Good for you.
There's toys over there. I have my toy tractor that I played with as a kid proudly on a shelf to remind
Nice.
me,
Yeah,
don't let
man.
that die.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. I won't allow myself to, but if I needed to, I could take that thing down and probably amuse myself with it for 3, 4 minutes, pretending it's real. But that's the thing, and I think that's what causes those hiatuses.
Yeah. Yep.
I never took a hiatus, but I should have. I should have.
For your own
Um,
mental health.
yeah, man. I poured myself into a glass of beer that turned into a lot of alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
never felt like an alcoholic, but I sure, I never, well, let's say this,
Okay.
I was drinking to that level, but
Yep.
I'm not shining anything on anybody else's struggle, because I know a
Hmm.
lot of people in recovery and they're beautiful.
Yeah. Sure.
I had to put it in the place that it needed to be, which is
Hmm.
almost never
Okay.
touch the stuff. But
That's great.
but that was my escape at night.
Yeah.
I would just like, I either had practice and then I'd go to the bar,
Hmm.
or I'd go home and have a few before bed because I couldn't sleep.
Oh, okay.
Hard to
Yep.
sleep when you don't like your choices in life.
Yeah, I guess it would be. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah. That's
let
tough.
myself go to that point. But
Yeah.
if I hadn't, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now.
Right. Right. Well, yeah. What's that Rascal Flatts song? God bless the broken road that led me to you, or something like that.
Never
But
heard
it's
that one. That's a
no,
good.
no. It's
Good idea.
you should, I mean, it's from way back in the day. It's probably from like the 90s maybe. But yeah, it's all about kind of like, yeah, I've went through all these struggles. I've made all these poor decisions, but all of those poor decisions led me to where I am right here.
Yeah,
So, you know.
exactly. I
Mhm.
mean, we're all flawed people that are just trying to find our way, and I just want to. I like to share where I'm at and these little stories, whether or not when I can,
Mhm.
when I feel comfortable, just because I think I would want to hear that from somebody else, what they really went through. And,
Absolutely.
it's
Yep.
not just about the songs on the record. It's also about the adventure, of the
Yeah.
road and
Mhm.
everything it took to get to where you're at.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, I keep looking at the guitar behind you. I'm not familiar with that. What is that?
Oh, this one, this
Yeah,
is it's an old K.
I've never even heard of a K guitar.
Oh yeah, this is from the 50s. It's a
Nice.
nice little machine.
Yeah, man.
And I got into buying kind of old wacky guitars for a while. I worked at a vintage shop
Hmm.
out of college, at Wade's Guitar Shop in Milwaukee, and I learned a lot about it. And he loved these old Silvertones and Ks. They were guitars sold by the Sears catalog in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 30s. And uh, I have a Silvertone hanging directly across me. This one, I've
Hmm.
got a bunch of weird old guitars.
Nice.
I don't necessarily have any like old Gibsons or Fenders, but those were
Hmm.
kind of, I always, at the time when I was getting into them, they weren't as chic as they are now.
Sure,
Now a
they're
lot of
much
people,
harder to find now. That's for sure.
yeah, people have discovered they're cool.
Yep.
Like you'll
Yeah.
see,
Yep.
I got a Tesco Del Rey up there that is really, by all estimations, it was literally fished out of a dumpster by a friend of mine and brought to me because that's what they thought it was worth. And that's the
Wow.
guitar I recorded our record with.
Did you?
Yeah,
I love that. That's great.
yeah, because it was so junky and microphonic. I couldn't play any like fancy licks. And
Hmm.
we were recording in a small room, and microphonic is exactly what it sounds like. It means the pickups have gone to be like microphones where I could literally talk into the guitar and it'll go
Oh
through the
yeah.
amp. But
Yep.
because of that, it made everything bigger. It became like a room mic unto itself.
Oh, that's so cool.
You hear the drums through it. You'd hear, you know, and it's all coming out of the amp. It was added to the sound.
Yeah, yeah, that's fantastic. So any new music coming up from the record company?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I've got my microphone downstairs. I just ordered a new mic. We record with a mic called the UA87, which is kind of a little bit of a pricey mic, and
Hmm.
I've finally ponied up and got myself a version of that. I got one called the DA87i. I'm not sure if it's by Document Audio. I just read all the reviews online, and they're like, it's just as good, and I'm like, huh, that's all right. I'll give it a shot. I'll save myself $4,000 and buy the,
Yeah.
the cheaper version, but
Yep.
for $500. So I've got it saddled up downstairs, and I every day I'll do my thing in the morning. I get up, I exercise. If I have
Hmm.
any interviews or anything, we do those, and then I go downstairs and I start picking away and
Okay.
sifting through the ideas. Pull out a book, pull out Walt Whitman Leaves the Grass, pull out a Jack Kerouac book, pull out, and just have a book next to me. I'll read, write, read, write.
Oh
If
wow.
that stops working, I just harvesting from every field.
Hmm.
And then I have folders. This is something that's really helped if you're a person that starts writing a lot. So now I have colored folders. I have like my favorite color is red, and my second favorite color is black.
Okay.
And my red folder is the one that I see. It just stands out. I know that if a song's in there, it's getting close, and
Oh,
then it
okay.
goes down from there. Like, and I
Yeah.
do it all by color. Like I said, I'm like a kid. It's like by the time I get down to green, which is like one I could be indifferent about, I'm like, all right, that's like the really raw idea.
That's cool. So
So
you actually write on like paper and stuff, right? Paper, pencil.
yes, I did write on a computer for a long time,
Hmm.
and I take a lot of notes on my phone. I take a
Yeah.
lot of notes, or I just do voice memos. I
No,
can't
yeah,
stress
we all
enough.
do. Yeah, we all have
Yeah.
thousands of them in our. There's hit songs all in our phones, but nobody knows which ones they are.
Yeah, well, that's where using your time in weird ways. One way that I try to do it is I fly a lot. So
Hmm.
that's where I've learned it's like when I'm stuck on a plane and I'm in airplane mode, instead of watching, the Gangs of New York or whatever's on the little
Yeah.
screen,
Yep.
I'll uh I go back and I listen to my voice memos. I make myself sit there for an hour and I
Hmm.
compartmentalize them. I write what they are. And then when I get home, I have drop boxes and I just
Oh,
forward them
okay.
to the drop boxes.
Nice.
So we move something from, I can't stress this enough, writers. Don't make my mistakes. Like, the sooner you start getting a system that's uniquely yours to
Mm.
organize your stuff, the better. You want to create that funnel where what you're describing, David, has a lesser chance. Where if like a little idea is teetering on the top of that funnel, you give it a
Hmm.
little push and it finds its way down
There you
into the
go.
into the spout that becomes the next
Yep.
funnel.
Right, right, right.
You
Yep.
know,
I love that. Yep.
and you keep doing that until you get to the I think this is ready
Hmm.
bottom.
Yeah, 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 yeah. What's the writing process look for the band? I mean, you just kind of described yours. Now, will you then take something that's almost completely hashed out and give it to Alex and Mark, or do
Yeah,
you guys write together? How's it work?
that yes, yes,
Hmm.
and even there are more than that. For one thing, Jerry Garcia said, if you're going to be in a band, be ready for everybody to take your idea and I don't remember if he said mess it up, destroy it. It was a
Hmm.
hilarious
Yeah.
quote. He's like, destroy it and put it back together the way they want,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
And that's a band. And I love that. Now it can be tough.
Hmm.
I'm not going to tell you that we haven't had our disagreements,
Right. Right.
vehement disagreements about how a song should go. But
Yep.
like, you learn how to communicate. If you're getting to the point where feelings are starting to come into it, you just sit down and go, hey,
Hmm.
like, what are we doing here? And you
Right.
figure it out. But Alex is an excellent writer. He can write like beautiful songs. And, a lot of times some of the songs as he's gotten further and further into his writing, and he just comes with like an idea. And I'm like, that's great.
Hmm.
I'm like, I don't really have a lot to do to that.
Oh,
It's like,
okay.
let's just find the key and do it. And then, that'll happen in the other direction. Most of the time it's collaborative, but I mean, it, there are Stiff has just got that's our bass player, Alec.
Yeah.
He just got such a gift for creating hooky melodies that
Oh, okay.
aren't they don't sound like, oh, I've heard that a billion times. It's like, whoa,
Yeah.
what is that? And I
Well,
have a gift for like kind of flow and finding discerning what feels honest and in what I'm doing, you
yeah.
know.
Yep.
So
It's interesting you say that about Alex because that's really kind of defines the experience how I discovered the record company. I mean, I was listening to one of our alternative stations here. I'm in South Jersey and we're more of a suburb of Philly than New York, so I was listening to an alternative Philly station and I heard the opening riff to, Alex on Life to Fix. And
yeah,
I was like, what is that? Like that. And
yeah,
then I was like, is that a bass guitar? That's a bass guitar,
yeah,
And I was immediately interested.
yeah, man. Well, the thing that's funny is he just he doesn't think he's whatever Alex is focused on, he's focused on it 100%.
Okay.
He is wham, like,
Right.
and he gets it done. Like if
Hmm.
he wants to do something, he gets it done. And like it can be extremely intimidating sometimes because he just can be so fast and focused that you're like racing to catch up. And
Hmm.
he's like, "Come on, come on, come on, we got it." And I'm like, bro, hold on, wait a minute, hold on, wait a second. What I learned real early in the band was come with your best take early because
Hmm.
he's gonna get it right the first time. You know, and there's an honesty in that and a beauty in that.
Sure.
And so yeah, and then Mark, I mean, Mark is no slouch either. I mean, Mark was worked with Quincy Jones for years.
Oh, wow.
He's been around.
Hmm.
He was like Quincy Jones, like worked with him, next to him, like as
Wow.
his
That's amazing.
personal guy for
Yeah.
I don't know how many years, 6, 7 years or something.
Hmm.
So he's got from being around those kinds of sessions and that kind of stuff. an amazing year, and he's also extremely good with the visuals.
Mm-hmm.
So like a lot of times we'll get that done. I mean, everybody's a family business, you know. I mean, our T-shirt design, the last T-shirt design was drawn by Alex's girlfriend, who her partner.
Yeah, yeah.
They've
Yep.
been together a while now, so they're like basically partners at this point.
Sure.
But
Yep.
she drew this tiger, and she's a great artist, and we were just like, that's great. Put it right on the shirt, bam. You
That's
know,
awesome. I love it.
yeah.
I love
So it's a family. We're all baking family cookies here and just selling them out the front door.
it. That's great. All right. Anything else you want kind of my audience to know about either you or the record company or anything else before we wrap it up? I want to
Well,
make
if you
sure we
make
kind of cover everything.
Well, for one thing, thanks for supporting this podcast. And if
Oh,
you made it
thank you.
this far, appreciate your ears, people. You know, especially if you've never heard of me and somehow come this far, I really appreciate that. The greatest gift that any listener can give an artist is their time. Everybody that listens to any artist had to have a considering moment where they heard it for the first time and then chose to follow it or leave it behind. I've never lost sight of the fact that that first couple of seconds is always a gift, whether they go, this sucks or not. Um, because it is. It's moments of time out of a person's life, and maybe it's just me getting older or me laying in that hospital with my back thrown out for so long or whatever it was. Um, I just appreciate it more and more. So the first thing I want to say is thanks for getting this far. And if you like what you heard here, go listen to our music. We play rock and roll. And when I say that, I mean it. Like we play rock and roll with the roll as important as the rock. And if you listen to us, hopefully that will make sense. People ask me, what do you play? They're like, is it blues rock? Is it Americana? I'm like, it's rock and roll.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think that term it's still the perfect term for what
Sure.
bands like the Stones do, or like bands that have that swing in it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that thing that where the metronome doesn't go like ding, 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 ding. It goes
Yeah.
ring, ring, ring. It has that.
Yep. It's got some swagger to it.
Yeah, it's got a little swing. So we play rock and roll music, and we've got the mindset of an independent band. We're not something you're going to hear about in the mainstream. That don't bother us at all.
Nice.
Come on out to a show, and well, if you paid $25, my theory has always been, if you want to have a hamburger stand, if you've got a $5 hamburger, make it taste like a $10 hamburger, and you'll be in business forever. So if you pay
There
a
you go.
dollar, we'll try and make your dollar feel like $2.
Nice. I wanted to come out to your Harrisburg, Pennsylvania show last month, but I wasn't able to make it. So hopefully you guys will make it into the Philadelphia area again somewhere, and I'll
Absolutely.
catch up with you guys.
You mind me asking what station you heard us on?
I think it was Alt 104.5. I
All
think.
right on.
Either that or 93.3 WMR, which is more of like a rock station. But I know I've heard you on both stations. I know they both played.
I'm asking. We got a couple of friends out there. XPN, Bruce Warren, really good friend. He was one of the first people to play us nationally. He was the first person to play us nationally. And then Pierre Robert.
Pierre from 93.3. Yeah, man.
Pierre Robert is like family. I mean,
I know I've heard you guys on MMR multiple times. So
Pierre is one of the nicest people ever, and so is Bruce. They just are such champions of music. And like, if you're playing bands like the record company, you're one of those people that is in that class of what I said earlier. It's like, you're not in it for the money. You're in it because you love it.
Right.
You believe in something.
Yep.
Because you could play something else and probably get more listeners, but you play these kinds of bands and artists because you believe this is what we want to put out there. And that's huge, Yeah.
So. Absolutely. All right, Chris. Well, thank you so much for doing the podcast. I really, really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for hanging in there with me as I got the technical difficulties cleared up. Man.
All good. I'm glad we were able to connect, and you're off to Alaska and Hawaii next on tour, right?
Yeah. I knock out my 50th state finally.
Nice.
And when we play both of them, that'll be the 49th and 50th state for our band.
You've never played there before? Okay.
No, this is it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right,
Part of the
cool.
reason we're doing it.
Yeah,
Gotta
yeah,
do
I
it.
hear you. I hear you. Well, it's not too shabby. You get to work in Alaska or Hawaii. It's great.
Yeah, I'm stoked, man.
Yeah, man.
And we're excited to go out there. So I hope whoever sees
Yeah.
us out there has a good time.
Yeah, man. Awesome. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your tour. I hope your back is fully recovered sometime soon.
Oh yeah.
Yep. All right,
Can't keep a
brother.
good man down. Take care, my man.
You